Hi, sixth graders, this is Mrs. Gall. Today we're going to talk through some different multiplying and dividing extensions. Let's start with reviewing our negative rules. If I'm thinking about basic computation and I'm working with negatives, such as -8 times +9, remember our rule of when something bad happens to someone good, we think that's bad. That means a negative times a positive is going to result in a negative answer. So -8 times +9 gives us a -72. You can also think of if you have one negative, you're going to get a negative answer, and if you have two negatives, you're going to get a positive answer. The same rule applies to dividing. If I were to look at -60 and divide it by -10, something bad happening to someone bad, we think that's good, so that would result in a +6. You think about this one. 2 times -5. What do you think the answer to that one might be? Hopefully you said -10. You have one negative in the problem, so it's going to result in a negative answer, or something good happening to someone bad we think is bad. Those same rules apply even when there's decimals involved, so keep that in mind as you're moving through your negative work in your decimals. The other types of problems I wanted to talk about today are missing dividends and quotients. Missing dividends and divisors. So remember our setup for a problem is dividend divided by divisor equals our quotient. If we set this up thinking about a missing dividend, and we were to say x divided by 4 equals 5. Kind of reason through here, what would make sense in place of x? What divided by 4 is going to give us 5? Maybe you thought 20 divided by 4 would give us 5. How would we get that missing dividend? Well, we would multiply our divisor and our quotient together, 4 times 5, to get that starting number when it's the starting number that's missing. The same rules apply even when you're working with decimals. If I were to have m divided by 4.3 equals 21.3, I'm going to use that same type of thinking to get my missing dividend. I'm going to multiply my quotient and my divisor together to get that missing dividend. So if I go down here, I can set up my multiplication problem and multiply through the problem to figure out what that dividend might be. I'm following my multiplication process using the standard method, and I'm placing my decimal the same way we've talked about in class. We have two numbers after the decimal in our problem, so we should have two numbers after the decimal in our answer. That means our missing dividend for this problem is 91.59. If I were to take 91.59 and divide it by 4.3, it should equal 21.3. So that's when we have a missing dividend. We multiply our divisor and our quotient together. What about if we're missing the divisor? Let's look at a problem like this. 30 divided by x equals 5. Think about what 30 divided by what equals 5? That would be 6. How would you get 6 with the numbers that we were given? Well, if we took 30 and divided it by 5, that would give us that missing divisor 6. So when the divisor is missing, we're going to divide our two numbers to get that answer. Let's look at one that applies to decimals. 508.92 divided by x equals 1.2. Okay, so in this example, we are missing our divisor. So what are we going to do with our two numbers? We're going to divide. So we'll take our dividend, 508.92, and divide by 1.2. Remember, we want that 1.2 to be a whole Since Since we slid that decimal over one spot, we're also sliding our dividends decimal over one spot before we raise it up to the roof. Now we divide. 12 goes into 50 4 times. That's 48. Subtract and get 2. Bring down the 8. 12 goes into 28 2 times. That's 24. Subtract, we get 4. Bring down the 9. 12 goes into 49 4 times. That's 48. Subtract and get 1. Bring down your last number in line 12. 12 goes into 12 one time, which is 12. I have nothing left and no remainder. That means my missing divisor is 424.1. All right, you guys, so just a little recap. When we're multiplying with positives and negatives, one negative results in a negative answer, like this example. Two negatives results in a positive answer, like this example. That's with both multiplying and dividing. With our dividends and divisors, when we're missing the dividend, we multiply the two numbers to get that answer. When we're missing the divisor, we divide the two numbers to get that answer. Try your independent practice. If you have any questions, check in with your teacher.